Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm going to be honest with you right off the bat today. We are wading into some truly dark, murky waters.
Yeah, we really are. It's a lot to process.
It is, because you know the name. Everyone listening knows the name Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
It has basically become this cultural shorthand for scandal, for corruption, and really for the absolute worst impulses of the global elite.
Exactly. It's a buzzword now.
But here's the problem with that level of infamy. Because the name is so loud and the headlines are just so constant, we actually tend to glaze over the specific granular detail.
We absolutely do. It just becomes a blur of sensationalism.
Right. You see the memes, you watch the Netflix documentaries, and you think you have the full picture. You think it's just a story about a bad man in a private plane.
Mm-hmm. But when you actually sit down with the raw data, and I mean the actual court documents, the redacted emails, the witness interviews, the FBI files that have been slowly trickling out over the years, the reality is far stranger, much more complex, frankly, far more disturbing than the general narrative even suggests.
Which is exactly what we are doing today. We are not doing the tabloid version of this story for you. We have a massive stack of sources here that boils down to 50 insane facts pulled directly from these released files.
And we really mean pulled directly from the source material.
Right. We aren't just talking about the general predator narrative. We are talking about cameras hidden in Kleenex boxes.
Yeah.
We are talking about emails to the Duchess of York asking for rent money. And we are talking about a legitimate, documented obsession with time travel.
And eugenics. It really is a comprehensive look at the actual machinery of the operation.
So our mission today isn't to rehash the scandal for the sake of gossip. It is to categorize these specific data points so we can understand three things for you.
First, the sheer scope of his network.
Second, the psychology of the man himself, which is, it's much more twisted than people realize.
Oh, definitely.
And third, the actual mechanisms he used to control everyone around him.
So to keep us from getting totally lost in the madness of all these documents, we've broken this deep dive into four main pillars.
Right. Pillar one, we are going to look at the global network. So that is royalty, politics, Hollywood.
Pillar two is the infrastructure of control. Basically, how he actually ran his houses in his life.
Pillar three is the bizarre science. And I have to say, this is the part that really threw me.
The eugenics and transhumanism stuff.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
And finally, pillar four is the aftermath. The money trail and those final days.
It is a roadmap into a very chaotic world.
Let's just jump right into the first pillar, the spider's web. I think most people know about Prince Andrew.
Right, that's the big headline that everyone focuses on.
But the source material suggests the relationship with the British royal family went way deeper than just one prince.
It creates a picture of a man who is deeply, deeply embedded in that social circle. He wasn't just a casual acquaintance.
Give me an example from the files.
Okay, so in 2010, and remember, this is after his initial conviction in Florida.
That's a crucial point. Everyone already knew who he was.
Exactly. There is an email where Epstein writes to the Duke, which is widely believed to be Prince Andrew, asking for private time.
Okay.
And the response allegedly invites him to BP.
BP being Buckingham Palace.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The source notes that Epstein was actually invited to the palace.
Just pause and think about the security implications of that for a second.
I know.
You have a registered sex offender, a man flagged by multiple intelligence agencies, allegedly being invited for private time inside the residence of the British monarch.
It suggests a level of access that completely bypasses standard protocol.
It really does. But it gets even stranger and maybe a little more desperate when you look at Sarah Ferguson.
Fergie, the Duchess of York.
This one just blew my mind. I mean, you expect the business connections, maybe, but the personal reliance. The source details an email where Fergie calls Epstein the brother I never had.
And she also says, the brother I have always wished for.
Right. The brother I have always wished for. That is such intimate language.
It is.
And then, in the very same breath, she's asking him for £20,000 to cover her rent because her business collapsed.
Yeah, she needed a bailout.
And I still can't believe this is actually in an email. She jokes, I am at your service. Just marry me.
It really highlights the financial leverage he held over these people. He wasn't just a friend you invited to parties.
He was a lifeline.
Exactly. He was bailing out members of the royal family who were cash poor but title rich. And that creates a power dynamic that is incredibly difficult to break.
Because if someone pays your rent, if someone saves you from public bankruptcy,
you overlook a lot of flaws. You overlook a lot of darkness.
It is the classic deal with the devil.
But his royal connections weren't just limited to the UK either. The files reveal a fascinating correspondence with the Crown Princess of Norway.
Met Marit. This was completely new to me.
Right. Between 2011 and 2014, there are numerous exchanges. She calls him a sweetheart and soft-hearted.
Soft-hearted, wow.
But then they discuss what Epstein termed a wife hunt in Paris.
A wife hunt.
Yeah. And the princess allegedly tells him that Scandinavian women are better wife material.
It's so casual. That is what gets me. They are discussing these things like they are talking about shopping or vacation plans.
Get a Scandinavian one, they last longer.
Exactly. It completely normalizes him. It makes him seem like just an eccentric billionaire friend looking for love, not a predator hunting for victims.
That was the key to his camouflage. He embedded himself so thoroughly that his behavior was just seen as a quirk.
Right.
He made himself indispensable to these people, both emotionally and financially, so they just stopped asking questions about what he was doing when they weren't around.
Speaking of embedding himself, let's pivot and talk politics.
Yeah.
And before we do, I want to be crystal clear with you, the listener.
Yes, very important point.
The files implicate figures across the entire political spectrum. This is not a partisan issue in the source material. It is an access issue. We are just impartially reporting what is in these documents.
Absolutely neutral reporting here. On one side, you have Donald Trump. He is one of the most frequently mentioned figures in the files.
Now, there's a specific detail here regarding the FBI that we need to parse carefully so we accurately reflect the source.
Yes. The files include a 6-page FBI spreadsheet regarding the National Threat Operations Center, or NTOC.
And what were those?
These were tips coming in from the public alleging wrongdoing involving Trump and Epstein.
But we have to state what the investigators found.
Right. It is crucial to state, as the source does, that investigators at the time deemed these tips not credible, and the White House has obviously denied them.
But the sheer volume of mentions is still significant.
It is. It shows that, at the very least, the public perception linked them heavily at the time.
And there is that email from right after the 2016 election.
Yes. A redacted sender writes to Epstein, "Dear Jeffrey, you are so intelligent and powerful men. Please tell me what's going to happen with Europe and Eastern Europe."
And what does Epstein say?
He just replies, "It's okay."
It's okay. It implies people looked up to him as some kind of oracle for geopolitical stability.
They clearly thought he had the inside track on the new administration.
Then you flip the coin over to the Clinton-era figures. Let's talk about Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary.
This relationship appears very close in the logs. They attended dinners together, they had meetings.
And they were exchanging jokes about Trump. Yes.
There is an exchange where Epstein tells Summers, "Your world does not understand how dumb he really is."
Wow.
Now, Summers later admitted it was a mistake to stay in touch with Epstein after his initial conviction. But the integration into that high-level policy world was very real.
Summers is a heavyweight intellect.
Exactly. For him to be spending significant time with Epstein suggests Epstein could actually hold his own in those high-level economic conversations.
And it wasn't just domestic politics. We have Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel.
Barak visited often, and he had a very interesting quote. He described Epstein as a collector of people.
A collector of people. Frankly, that is the most accurate job title Epstein ever had.
He really collected people like assets. He collected status.
Yeah, if he could get a prime minister in his living room, that was better than having a Picasso on the wall.
There was also a mention of Peter Mandelson, a UK official.
This is a critical point regarding national security in the source material.
Right. Mandelson allegedly forwarded market-sensitive information to Epstein in 2009.
Which suggests Epstein wasn't just seeking social clout, he was actively trading in information.
If you have a network this wide, you become a hub of intelligence. Think about it.
Yeah.
If you know what the UK business secretary is thinking, and you know what the Israeli prime minister is thinking, and you know what the US Treasury secretary is thinking.
You are arguably one of the most informed men on the planet.
Which leads us to the biggest geopolitical whale of all.
Vladimir Putin.
This is one of the insane facts listed in the source that really stops you in your tracks. Epstein's files show he actively attempted to meet Putin.
He asked friends to arrange it between 2013 and 2018.
Yes, he even sought a Russian visa.
Did they actually meet?
The source is unclear on that. It says it's unknown if the meeting ever happened.
But just the intent, the sheer audacity to think, I can just get a meeting with Vladimir Putin.
It shows his level of confidence. He absolutely did not see himself as a private citizen. He saw himself as a state-level actor.
Let's pivot to Hollywood and culture. Because if the political stuff is heavy, the Hollywood stuff is just grimy.
It really is.
There is this Oscar guru mentioned in the files, Peggy Siegel.
This email exchange is one of the most disturbing in terms of casual dehumanization.
Set the scene for us.
Siegel was a high-powered publicist. She was visiting Kenya in 2009, and she emails Epstein offering to bring a little baby back for you. Or two. Boys or girls.
I mean, just pause on that for a second. Bring a baby back, like it's a keychain.
Like it's a souvenir from a trip.
It treats human beings entirely as commodities.
Even if it was a joke, which is a very generous interpretation, it reveals a mindset where people are just objects to be acquired.
It suggests she knew exactly what his interests were, and she was playing into them to curry favor.
And the list of names in the culture sector just goes on and on. Woody Allen is mentioned 7,000 times.
7,000. And there's an email joking about attending a pedophile convention.
Yes. Then you have Deepak Chopra.
He appears thousands of times, too.
Chopra even invited Epstein on a trip to Israel, asking him to bring his girls.
Bring his girls.
Now, Chopra has since expressed regret, calling it poor judgment. But at the time, Epstein was totally integrated into the wellness community, too.
He was a chameleon. He was just everywhere.
That brings us to Peter Attia. He is a huge name in the longevity and health space right now.
Attia's emails are fascinating because they are so confessional.
He admits to going into withdrawal if he doesn't see Epstein.
He actually writes, "The life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul."
I can't tell a soul. That's the hook, isn't it? He makes you complicit just by witnessing his life.
Exactly. It is a seduction of secrecy. You feel special being on the inside, even if what you're seeing is, as Attia called it, outrageous.
It creates this dark bond. Like, we know something the rest of the world doesn't.
And just to round out the culture section of this pillar, we have Steve Tisch, the co-owner of the New York Giants.
He sends an email asking if a woman at Epstein's house was a pro or a civilian.
Just listen to that language. Civilian. It implies a military operation or a game.
It completely separates the women from their humanity. It implies that there are combatants in the sex trade and then there are regular people.
It creates a rigid class system where the women are just service providers or targets, and the men are the operators.
Which is actually the perfect transition into part 2, the infrastructure of control.
Right, because this wasn't just a chaotic party lifestyle. He didn't just have an open house. It was a highly organized surveillance state.
This is where we get into the actual mechanics of how he operated. The source details how Epstein weaponized his environment.
He didn't just buy some security cameras. He had his pilot, Larry Visosky, buy them from a spy shop in Florida.
Which is very telling. Why the pilot?
Plausible deniability.
Distance. Exactly. If Epstein walks into a spy shop, people might talk. If his pilot does it, it's just an errand.
And the description of these cameras in the files, they were the size of a thumbnail drive.
And they were installed in Kleenex boxes.
That is such a specific paranoid detail. Imagine you're in a room, you reach for a tissue, and you are being recorded.
Think about the intimacy of that placement. A Kleenex box is usually on a bedside table or in a bathroom.
The most private spaces in a home.
And we have to ask, for what purpose? Why go to that length?
The source actually provides a chilling clue about this. There is an email regarding the installation of the cameras that says, "The Russians may come in handy."
Whoa. Connect those dots for us.
The speculation, based directly on the source material, is that this was a blackmail operation potentially linked to intelligence gathering.
Compromat.
Exactly. If you are secretly filming high-profile politicians, scientists, and royals in compromising situations, that footage is pure currency.
It's the ultimate insurance policy. It explains why he felt so untouchable all those years.
If he goes down, everyone goes down.
It really explains why he felt he could just walk into Buckingham Palace or casually ask for a meeting with Putin. He held all the cards.
Precisely. But the control wasn't just exerted over the wealthy guests, it was heavily enforced over the staff. We need to talk about the household manual.
The manual. Honestly, this sounds like something out of a psychological horror movie.
It really does. It created a literal cult-like environment in his homes. There were incredibly strict rules.
For instance, the air conditioning in the master bedroom had to be exactly 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
That is 15 degrees Celsius. That is freezing for a bedroom.
It is entirely uncomfortable. It keeps the environment sterile. It keeps people awake and on edge.
There were also rules about the precise placement of sex toys. They had to be aligned perfectly.
Rules that guns must be kept in the bedside drawers at all times.
But the most telling rule for the staff, the one that governed everything, was the mantra they were taught.
See nothing, Hear nothing, say nothing.
It enforces a brutal code of silence. You are there to serve the machine, not to question it.
And that dehumanization from the top trickled all the way down to the language he used.
The sources highlight that Epstein often referred to women and girls as it, not she, it.
Just it. It completely strips away personhood.
There is an email in the files where he criticizes a woman for not giving enough attention during a massage. He treats her exactly like a malfunctioning appliance.
The bluntness is staggering. There's another comment in the emails where someone casually says, "I loved the torture video."
Just casually dropping that into an email. And then there are the code words,
The source mentions the word cannibal appearing 52 times.
with references to jerky.
Right. Now, as the source notes, there is a mention of an actual restaurant called Cannibal. So there's a tiny bit of plausible deniability there.
But the sheer volume is highly suspicious. Why email about eating at the exact same place 52 times in that specific context,
And then there's the word pizza,
appearing over 900 times?
often paired with grape soda or Chinese cookies.
And it's used in contexts that just do not make sense for ordering food, like let's go for a pizza and grape soda again.
Many investigators and commenters reviewing these files believe this is code for specific types of sexual acts or specific demographics of victims.
Pizza has long been rumored to be code in these dark circles. It is the language of a secret society.
They have their own twisted dialect. It builds camaraderie among the abusers and keeps the outsiders, the civilians, entirely in the dark.
It allowed them to communicate openly in emails over years without flagging any automated filters.
Okay, so if you thought the surveillance was dark, part 3 might actually be the strangest and most unsettling part of this whole story.
The bizarre science.
Yeah. I knew Epstein was into science funding, throwing money at universities, but I did not realize how completely fringe it was.
Fringe is putting it very mildly. Epstein was obsessed with eugenics and transhumanism.
He viewed the human race as something to be engineered, and he viewed himself as the ultimate genetic stock.
Which brings us to the baby factory. Let's break that down.
This was a legitimate plan he discussed with top scientists and businessmen. He wanted to impregnate 20 women at a time at his Zorro Ranch in New Mexico.
Specifically to spread his own DNA.
Yes, he truly believed his DNA was superior to the general population.
It is classic narcissism elevated to a biological imperative. He believed the world would literally be a better place if there were more of him walking around.
But it gets worse.
Yeah.
He wasn't just interested in preserving his own DNA. He was highly interested in modifying others.
The source mentions emails to scientists, including Noam Chomsky, right?
Yes, and a German cognitive scientist.
Yeah.
Epstein was discussing quite seriously the idea of genetically modifying black people.
To quote, improve intelligence or adjusting genes for working memory.
That is straight up old school racism dressed up as futuristic science.
It is scientific racism. He believed that intelligence was purely genetic and that he could fix certain populations.
It reveals a worldview that is deeply, deeply hierarchical and prejudiced. He didn't just want to control people socially or financially.
We need to control them biologically.
And he was constantly experimenting on himself, too.
Right. He paid for his own genome sequencing.
He desperately wanted to extend his lifespan. He was terrified of death, which perfectly connects to the emails about time travel.
Okay, this part I really couldn't wrap my head around when I read the source. Time travel. Really?
He emailed heavy-hitting professors at Harvard and Yale, Martin Nowak and David Gellinter.
And what did he want from them?
He wanted to discuss the biological consequences of time travel and actual experiences that allowed travel to the past.
Was he being metaphorical, like looking at history? Or did he literally think he could cheat time?
Given his intense interest in transhumanism and cryonics, it is highly likely he was looking for a literal mechanism to escape mortality.
If you have infinite money and you have conquered every earthly pleasure, the only enemy left is time.
Exactly. He couldn't buy more time, so he wanted to find a physics loophole.
And there is this weird intersection of sex and science in the files, too. He was emailing Nathan Wolfe about a female Viagra.
Yes, he was looking into linking sexual behavior to microbial diversity.
He was looking for a chemical switch to control female libido.
Again, it all comes back to control. If he can engineer biological desire, he controls the interaction completely from the inside out.
Now, all this talk of baby factories and spreading his DNA, a natural question for you listening is there any evidence he actually did it?
That is the big question, the offspring theory. The source points to a few very specific, very intriguing pieces of evidence. First is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
In a 2007 email, she writes out highly detailed instructions for an Epstein sperm sample. This implies a shared fertility procedure was underway.
And then there's that email from Fergie again.
In 2011, she explicitly congratulates him on a baby boy. She says, "Heard from the Duke that you have had a baby boy."
It seems pretty explicit. It's hard to misinterpret that.
It does. And then, most heartbreakingly, there is a diary entry from a victim in the files. She implies she was pregnant and that the baby was taken away immediately after birth.
It really makes you wonder if there are children out there right now who have no idea they are part of this legacy.
It is a distinct possibility. If the baby factory wasn't just some sci-fi fantasy, but a project in its early stages, the implications are absolutely staggering.
Let's move to part 4, the physical environment and the end. Because the places he built perfectly reflect this twisted mind.
We have to talk about the temple on the island.
The blue and white striped building, it has basically become the icon of the whole conspiracy.
But the interior details provided in the source are just as strange as the exterior. It was unfinished inside.
And it had mattresses with yellow shrink wrap.
Yellow shrink wrap. That sounds so clinical.
It sounds like a crime scene or a laboratory.
And the ceiling had a massive zodiac mural painted on it.
Then there's the trapdoor.
Yes, a photo from the files shows a door leading directly to dark water under the property.
Now, to be fair, fact checkers debate this. Some say it was just for water filtration or standard maintenance.
But in the context of a man who installed hidden cameras in Kleenex boxes, a trapdoor leading into the sea invites much darker speculation about disposal or punishment.
And the art inside his homes. The aesthetic wasn't just standard nude photos.
No, it was nightmarish. There was a mural of a naked figure surrounded by demons.
But the item that really stands out in the source is a hallway table.
Oh God, the table.
It had lifelike statues of crying babies attached to the legs.
Who puts that in their house?
Someone who enjoys discomfort, someone who actively wants to signal to guests that standard morality simply does not apply here.
Is an intimidation tactic. You walk in, you see crying babies as furniture, and you know instantly you have entered a different world.
So we have the network, the control, the bizarre science, the environment. Then comes the end. And the money trail is always the smoking gun. Who got the money?
The 1953 trust. The primary beneficiary wasn't a child or a standard charity. It was Karina Shuliak.
So who is she?
She is reportedly his girlfriend, and she was the last person he called before he died. She received $50 million, real estate, and diamonds.
$50 million. That is a staggering amount of hush money or inheritance or whatever you want to call it.
It ensured absolute loyalty even after his death.
And speaking of his death, the source mentions a specific catchphrase Epstein used that feels incredibly eerie in hindsight.
Yes. The word whoops.
What?
It appears over 400 times in the files. But you have to look at the context.
He uses it after hearing about a death.
He uses it when discussing permission to kill a liar.
Permission to kill. Whoops.
It shows a complete psychopathic lack of empathy. Death and violence were just oops moments for him, just a minor inconvenience.
And in his final days, he was actually ready to talk.
That is a massive revelation in the files. 2 weeks before his death, his lawyers met with prosecutors.
They were discussing cooperation, a resolution.
He's going to name names. That is the heavy implication.
And suddenly, he is dead. It fuels every single theory out there.
It really does. But I want to end on the interview with Steve Bannon, because I think it sums up Epstein's self-image perfectly.
Bannon asked him if he was the devil.
Bannon asks, "Are you the devil?" And Epstein just smirks and says, "No, but I have a good mirror."
No, but I have a good mirror.
Bannon pushes him on it, saying he has all the attributes of the devil. And Epstein replies, "The devil scares me."
What do you think that means?
It means he recognized the evil, but he thought he was above it. Or perhaps he saw himself as just a reflection of the world around him, a world he bought and paid for.
So let's bring this all together for you. We have looked at these 50 insane facts. What is the actual picture here? This isn't just a story about a pervert with a plane.
No, it is a story about a man who built a sovereign state within a state.
He had his own surveillance agency.
He had his own diplomatic relations with heads of state. He had his own scientific research division.
And he had his own population. The victims and the staff governed entirely by his own laws.
And he used everyone. The royals gave him legitimacy, the politicians gave him protection, the scientists gave him hope for immortality.
And the money gave him the lubricant to make it all work seamlessly.
It is terrifying because it shows how incredibly fragile our systems are. If you have enough money and enough dirt, you can operate completely outside the lines.
And that is why the Oscar Guru email or the harem comments by Richard Branson actually matter. It shows that people saw it, they knew.
And they normalized it. They made jokes about it at parties. The horror isn't just Jeffrey Epstein. It is the
Oh.
ecosystem that allowed him to thrive for decades.
I want to leave you with one final thought, something the source mentioned that really stuck with me. The search for the fake wife.
The Russian candidate.
He was looking for a fake wife. He was actively looking into time travel. He was building a baby factory. He was freezing his DNA.
We tend to think of his crimes as being about immediate gratification, pleasure, abuse, exerting power in the moment,
But what if the ultimate goal was something longer?
a legacy.
Exactly. Was he trying to engineer a legacy that would literally outlive him? Was he trying to populate the future with his own DNA and his own money, controlled entirely by his own trust?
He didn't just want to own the present. He wanted to own the future.
And that is a truly terrifying thought to end on.
It really is.
That is going to do it for this deep dive into the Epstein files. It is heavy, it is complex, and honestly, it's exhausting. But it is so important to look at the details, not just the headline.
The devil is in the details, or in this case, in the mirror.
Thanks for listening. We will see you on the next deep dive.